Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, October 20th, 2016. I'm Keith Tebow. Tonight we continue our series looking at each of the 4 ballot questions that will appear on the November election. This time we're focusing on question 3. We recap 2 election-related forums held this week at Bristol Community College. The People's Debate that zeroed in on question 2, lifting the cap on charter schools, and an event featuring representatives of the candidates running for president. But first, let's look at the headline issues of the week. We bring in, as we do each week, Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm good, Keith. How are you doing?
Good. Big news this week locally. First announced by the Herald News yesterday, the retirement of Fall River Police Chief Dan Racine. He's had some health issues as of late, and it looks like these health issues are forcing him to retire. Fill us in on what you guys know as the latest.
Yeah, Chief Racine confirmed to us after, we've heard from various city officials yesterday afternoon that he would be retiring due to his health issues. This comes at the advice of his doctor, according to the chief, and certainly, family considerations as he also has 2 fairly young children at home. So he's set to retire and move into civilian life, it sounds like. And in the meantime, Deputy Chief Albert Dupere has been named the acting chief, which has traditionally been his role. He kind of steps into the that acting chief role when Racine has been out, whether it's for medical issues or for other reasons he may be out of the office. So at this point, that's the transition process, and we'll see a little bit longer term what might be the plan for a full-time replacement.
From the people your staff has spoken to, I'm sure thus far, they're both providing some kind words about the chief's time here in Fall River. He was well respected, well liked by a number of people. And what are some of the responses that you are hearing?
Yeah, those we spoke to spoke very highly of Chief Racine, especially other police chiefs, including George McNeil over in Somerset. Certainly gave his well wishes to the chief. We heard from Congressman Kennedy, who, in addition to working with him professionally, described Chief Racine as a friend. The 2 of them worked quite a bit in the last year to get Bristol County identified as a high-density trafficking area to hopefully help with the opioid problems in the area. Those others on staff and colleagues in the fire department, or cross-departmental with the fire department, were also expressing their best wishes for Racine as he moves on into civilian life. So most people spoke kindly. I think as we look back on the 6+ years of his career, there were mostly positives from the police department. Certainly you hate to focus on the negatives at a time like this.
Right.
But one of the ones that may have came up during his time frame was the incident with George Thompson over an encounter with the cell phone that led to a settlement. But mostly high marks for the chief from people in the community.
I know this is literally still developing over the past day. Mayor's office at all have any indication on how they plan to move forward in terms of posting for the position and filling the position of what will be a new chief?
From the mayor's comments yesterday, there doesn't appear to be an immediate rush to determine that. I think they'll probably figure out what the long-term process will be. As of yesterday afternoon, while the chief had confirmed his retirement, nothing officially had been filed at this point. So I think that may, certainly they can start working on this in the backs of their heads. The official process, I don't think the clock has actually started on that yet.
All right, so we will definitely follow along through on this as it progresses. The other story I want to get into today is actually sort of a regional story that looks at both New Bedford and Fall River in a way that, growing up here in Fall River as a young child, there was always that friendly competition between Fall River and New Bedford, high school-wise, of course, with the sports teams. But also, there was a little bit of competition as well between the chambers of commerce. As you know, Will, not too long ago, the 2 chambers were actually in discussions about merging the chambers of commerce into one entity and calling it the South Coast Chamber of Commerce. That deal fell through, so we still have a Fall River and a New Bedford Chamber. But this week it was reported that the New Bedford Chamber of Commerce is actually looking to use that South Coast name as they look to rebrand themselves. And that may cause some confusion in terms of how people refer to us here in this region. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, so it seems that the New Bedford Chamber had reached out to and reserved the name South Coast Chamber of Commerce. This was something they had done years back, I think, related to the potential merger discussions that had taken place. That name had lapsed in terms of the registering of it, so they re-upped on that. And as they indicated interest in using it, this has of course drawn the ire of the Fall River Chamber, which said, we went down this road once. We had a verbal agreement with previous directors of the New Bedford Chamber that neither group would use the South Coast name. Mm-hmm. They do share it for when they hold shared events such as the Business Expo that took place a couple of weeks ago. So some anger there, and certainly the confusion that could come in terms of what the South Coast Chamber would represent, who it would represent town-wise, and I don't think this will be the end of those discussions between the two chambers. Yeah,
I know when we now refer to the name of South Coast, we look at our entire region, basically from the Seekonk area, maybe even up to Attleboro, all the way down to just entering Cape Cod, just at the canal. So if the New Bedford Chamber were to change their name to South Coast, I can see how the Fall River Chamber of Commerce would be a little concerned that is this chamber now servicing us here in Fall River? Do we go to the Fall River Chamber? So we can see, I guess, where there would be some confusion.
Yes, certainly the name carries a lot. And I think even in your comment there saying, it goes from Seekonk maybe to Attleboro, not everyone is quite even sure what the South Coast region is. So,
exactly.
So it just adds to the confusion level.
Right. All right, Will, what's coming up in the next few days at the paper?
Yeah, this weekend we'll be taking a look at libraries in the region and how they are adapting to the digital age, trying to accommodate users beyond just the old books and encyclopedias of old. And we'll also be continuing our look, similar to you, on the ballot questions with a profile from the supporters and opponents of the expanded charter school issue.
All right, well, sounds good. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.
All right, have a good weekend, Keith.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot job list from the Fall River Career Center. Certified Nursing Assistant. Genesis Healthcare is in need of a full-time certified nursing assistant to assist licensed nurses in admitting and discharging residents at the Sarah S. Brayton Nursing Center. State-approved certification is required. Job number 801-9085. Construction Manager. Amazon is looking for a construction manager responsible for overseeing construction engineering, planning, and design of the Amazon Fulfillment Center. Project and engineering construction management experience is required. Job number 797-8529. Culinary Aid Cook. Kindred Healthcare, located at the Highlander here in Fall River, is seeking a part-time culinary aid cook to prepare daily meals and serve to their residents. Job number 799-2625. Prevention Security Officer. Talbot's Distribution Center, located in Lakeville, is in need of a full-time security loss prevention officer responsible for providing protection to employees and customers while on company property. Must be dependable, punctual, and able to cover various shifts in both the Lakeville and Hingham facilities. Job number 801-9096. For more information on these or other positions, visit FRCmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
We're continuing our discussions of the November election ballot. We're looking at the ballot initiatives that will be facing Massachusetts voters come November 8th. Today we're going to focus on question 3, and question 3 is a question which concerns with the confinement of farm animals. If passed, question 3 would prohibit any confinement of pigs, calves, and hens that prevents them from lying down, standing up, fully extending their limbs, or turning around freely. We're going to start our discussion now with the proponents of question 3. And joining us on the line right now is Stephanie Harris. She is the Massachusetts State Director for the Humane Society. Stephanie, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on, Keith. Question 3 is a modest measure on November's ballot, and a yes vote will finally establish common sense rules for the treatment of farm animals. There are currently no rules in Massachusetts regarding how farm animals can be confined, and in the absence of rules, you have some within the agribusiness industry that cut corners by cramming their animals into tiny cages so small they can barely move. So a yes vote on question 3 would ensure that egg-laying hens, calves raised for veal, breeding pigs are able to stand up, lie down, turn around, and extend their limbs, and establish a retail standard so that meat and eggs sold in the Commonwealth meet the same modest standard. It's really that basic. The yes vote on question 3 is endorsed by the Humane Society, the MSPCA, Massachusetts Sierra Club, United Farm Workers, as well as more than 500 Massachusetts veterinarians and more than 100 Massachusetts family farmers.
Now, Stephanie, as I understand it, too, this will also prohibit these types of food items coming from other states that have their animals confined in tight spaces from being sold in Massachusetts. Is that correct?
So this would apply even-handedly regardless of whether the products were raised in-state or out of state.
Mm-hmm. Well, the opponents of the measure are saying that if this passes, it would create a system where grocery prices, specifically on items like eggs, would tend to go up. What's your response to that?
Well, the egg industry's own economic analyses find that it would cost them only 1 to 2 pennies per egg to convert from cramming these birds into cages to using cage-free system, which is the reason that cost-conscious companies like Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walmart, Taco Bell, and probably most notably McDonald's, which is perhaps the fast food chain most known for keeping prices down, have announced that they're going 100% cage-free, and McDonald's has stated that they're doing that without changing their prices even a single cent. Mm-hmm. But beyond looking at what the cities show or what McDonald's is planning to do, we can actually look at what's happened in California. California, a couple of years ago, implemented a similar animal welfare reform, and now 2 years later, the egg prices are comparable to the rest of the nation. And in fact, this summer, they actually dipped below the national average.
Mm-hmm. Now, the opponents are also saying that there are a number of farmers that are taking their own steps to make the confinement of their animals more humane, that the market, in effect, will make this moot in a number of years. Again, your response to that?
Well, the market is deciding. There have been more than 200 food companies that have already pledged to go cage-free, but the laws are often needed to rein in outliers that are refusing to do the right thing on their own. So there are 10 other states that have passed similar laws to phase out certain types of extreme confinement, and there are more than 200 major food companies, including McDonald's and Walmart, that have policies to phase them out as well.
All right, Stephanie Harris, the Massachusetts State Director for the Humane Society, a proponent of question 3 on the Massachusetts ballot. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Keith.
Now we're joined by the opposition to question 3 on the November 8th ballot. I'm joined now by Diane Sullivan. She's the campaign manager for Citizens Against Food Tax Injustice. Diane, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Sure, Keith. Thanks for having me.
So, Diane, why should people vote no on question 3?
Well, question 3 is a social injustice that will victimize low and middle income households who are already struggling to survive in Massachusetts. According to Cornell University, question 3 would create a new food tax, costing Massachusetts consumers $250 million in the first year alone. And I think most of your viewers know that Massachusetts remains one of the most expensive states in the country in which to live. 784,000 of our neighbors rely on public supports to feed themselves and their families. And what question 3 is a D.C. special interest group working hard here in Massachusetts to steal away our affordable food choices.
In some of the literature, Diane, that has been handed out to voters from the Secretary of State's office, it lists that those in opposition would say that the cost to consumers just on eggs would be about $70 a year for a family of 5. Is there proof where this has been the case in other states that have enacted a similar initiative?
Right. Well, right now, California is the only state in the country that bans the sale of eggs that come from caged hens. And we can look to the implementation of that new law in 2015 and see that prices of eggs in California remain consistently double that in which they are across the rest of the country. But any of us can go to our local grocery store today, and you can look around. You'll see that the price of a dozen of cage-free eggs is costing 2 to 3 times more than a conventional egg costs right now.
Those in favor of question 3 also say that actually as part of the initiative that even things like eggs that may have been produced out of state where the hens have been confined in an inhumane manner will also not be able to be sold in Massachusetts. Does that, in your opinion, set up some sort of bigger issue here in the Commonwealth that sort of keeps everything controlled here in Massachusetts?
Of course. I think it's important to note that one farm here in Massachusetts is being targeted that would actually be impacted. In this farm, they are raising right now 3,000 hens. The other 2 animals that are being targeted in question 3, we actually do not even raise here in Massachusetts in the fashion in which the proponents of question 3 are trying to ban. So that it really speaks to, or really questions their intentions. They're not here targeting this one particular farm, although they're doing a really good job of vilifying this one farm. Their intent is to essentially have Massachusetts voters bankroll the rest of the country going cage-free with their livestock. So why they're not in the other states where there may be accusations of mistreatment of animals trying to fight it in those states, I'm not sure. You would have to ask them that question.
Right. Also, it says, again, in the literature that's provided by the Secretary of State's office that currently a number of farms and those in the industry are proactively taking steps to make their confinement of their farm animals more humane. Is your organization seeing that as well, that this may be a moot point?
Oh, it's absolutely. It's a non-issue here in Massachusetts. Again, one farm is being targeted. Our small farms here in Massachusetts, by and large, are already operating under this cage-free standard. So again, it begs the question why a D.C. lobbyist group is here trying to actually, ask us to self-impose a $250 million new food tax. And to put that into perspective, that would be $250 million that we send to producers in out-of-state to subsidize housing for their livestock. And that is actually more than $100 million more than we spend on our 2 largest state subsidy housing programs for people.
Diane Sullivan from the Citizens Against Food Tax Injustice, voting no on question 3. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Keith. Take care.
So this is Onyx. He's a 7-month-old beagle mix. He's been recently neutered. He's doing very well, learning his cues. He's very obedient. He's very sweet, a little timid, a little standoffish, but he's very, very sweet. He loves to play. He loves squeaky toys.
Meet Rosemary and Ollie. They are litter mates. They're about 3 months old. They're still here, and I don't understand why. People have been asking for kittens, and we still have them. These were a litter that were without a mother, and the lady was kind enough to take care of them until they were about 6 weeks old and then surrender them to the shelter. So they've had all their wormings. They still need to be spayed and neutered, but they're not old enough yet. They still need their rabies. In the cases of this, when they're too small, you end up getting a voucher to go to Pet Partners in Fall River. And because the spay and neuter and the rabies are included in your adoption fee, the $40 that we have you put down is refundable. But that's just to ensure, and by law, that the spaying and the neutering and the rabies get done. So you can come and meet them at Forever Paws. We're at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River. We're open 11 to 4 every day but Wednesday. And Saturdays and Sundays you can come too.
Welcome back. A U.S. presidential candidate forum was held today at Bristol Community College, featuring 4 local representatives of the Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, and Green Party presidential candidates. The informational session gave attendees another look into how each presidential candidate views the issues, ranging from immigration to higher education and gun control. The forum was moderated by BCC professor Donald Kilgus and was telecast live right here on FRC TV, Channel 95. Check out our FRC Media website, where you'll soon be able to watch the forum online and find out when it will re-air again on FRC TV. On Monday, South Coast Media organized the People's Debate, where those in favor of and against expansion of charter schools in Massachusetts, question 2 on the ballot, had a chance to state their case. Fall River Educators Association President Rebecca Cusick made a plea that voting yes on question 2 would be bad for local public schools.
Question 2 makes promises without saying how it will deliver on those promises, and it distracts us from talking about the real promise that has not been kept, the promise to provide all of our children in all of our schools, regardless of their zip code, with equality in education. And it distracts us from discussing how to offer innovations and positive reforms under the state's single-focused, test-based accountability system. We share a common goal on this stage, yet this question divides us, and it preys on our natural desire to seek out what we believe is best for our children. It is not possible to run 2 parallel separate systems for the price of one. If we cannot afford the schools we have now, why would we create new ones? Why are Wall Street outsiders who do not send their children to school in Massachusetts investing money in question 2? These out-of-state billionaires see privatizing education as an opportunity for corporations to profit with public money. Public education was born in Massachusetts, and it's an essential component of our democracy that we must not jeopardize. We should be working together to provide every single student with the resources they need to be successful, whether they live in a wealthy suburb or a poor city. The truth is, our schools are not failing. They are being failed by a system that allows the neediest kids to get the least, and an accountability system that values test scores above all else.
Thanks.
State Senator Michael Roderick spoke in favor of question 2. His argument is that more charter schools will benefit all students of the Commonwealth.
This is about choice. We should all have the ability. I always joke, I was lucky, I guess in a way, but for the first 12 years of my school, K through 12, every one of my teachers had the same first name, Sister. And I had a lot of discipline. And my parents appreciated the discipline, and I hope that it taught me values in my life of how to respect people, respect everyone's opinion, and that I show that every day when I'm representing you at the State House. I know many public school teachers who send their kids to parochial and private schools, and they often, say, "Oh, Mike, I know you're yes on 2, but my union's telling me I got to be no on 2," and I'm like, so-and-so, but both your kids are at Bishop Stang, both your kids are at, Holy Family, Holy Name School. Your kids go to St. Philomena's in Portsmouth. How can you deny choice? That's good that you have the money and you can afford it, but why shouldn't someone that's on the 3rd floor on Plain Street have that same opportunity to choose the educational model?
Make sure you can check out the People's Debate again at FRC TV. Just check out our FRC Media website. The Massachusetts Community Veterans Engagement Board will host its first public forum on sustainable housing for military veterans this weekend. The event will be held on Saturday, October 22nd at Morton Middle School between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Fall River Mayor Jazio Correa announced the forum this week at a news conference at Government Center, where co-chair of the CVEB, Helen Wiley III, said that more information other than housing will be made available to the attendees.
even if your issue is not housing, come by, because that vendor area is going to address some of the things from finance to legal. We'll have Military One Source there. There'll be a lot of other resources there that could benefit the service members, the veterans, and their families. So as Steve talked about, you may be in housing now, but you never know what comes up. There'll be some folks there that can help you with financial, legal, almost any gambit that the rest of society may be dealing with. But the emphasis will be on encouraging those veterans and their families to come out and get any support that they might need from us.
And finally this week, the official ceremony for the rededication of the gates of the city on Ponte Delgada Boulevard will be held Sunday, October 23rd at 2:30 p.m. The occasion marks the 10th anniversary of the gates as a cultural and architectural landmark in the city's waterfront district. The gates were a replica of the gates in the city of Ponte Delgada in the Azores. Following the ceremony, there'll be a reception at the Cultural Center at 205 South Main Street. That's it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. right here on FRC TV, but you can check us out online 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.